Welcome back to the show. Today we have Frank Ford. He's the co-founder, co-owner, and performer at the 4-Day Weekend. And he also co-wrote a book called Happy Accidents, The Transformative Power of Yes and at Work and in Life. Frank, welcome back to the show, man. I'm happy to have you back.
Yes, Kevin. Well, thank you so much for having me back on. We now get to talk face to face.
Totally.
I got to put a face to the voice. So this is great.
Yeah, man, that's great. So maybe before we kind of get into all the fun stuff that you're actually doing, let's get to know you a little bit better and maybe start off with a bit of your background, kind of where you grew up, where you went to school.
Yep. Well, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio.
Very cool.
Yeah, the mean streets of Columbus, Ohio. It really toughened me up. I'm a hardened improviser. Now, so I had a great upbringing in the Midwest, growing up in Ohio and Columbus. And I graduated from The Ohio State University.
Okay.
And that's what brought me ultimately to Texas. I was recruited out of college by a company named Texas Instruments.
Sure.
For those of you, you know Texas Instruments,
Yep.
Probably from the graphing calculators you've used or some of the...
So. You used to load some games on those calculators.
That's right. Yes. One of the ones that, yeah, you could do that. That's true. So I was one of the people that worked on those graphing calculators.
That's amazing.
Educational toys for kids and science equipment and laptop computers, amongst other things. So I worked in the consumer products division and I helped design those products. That's what brought me to Texas.
Okay.
So after Ohio State and then Texas Instruments, that's when I sort of got into comedy, specifically stand-up comedy.
Okay.
And it's where I met my my best friends and the co-owners of 4-Day Weekend and the founding members, David Ahern, David Wilk, and Troy Grant. And we're all still friends today, and we're all still performing at 4-Day Weekend today. But I met them through stand-up, and then we got into improv, and then here we are 21 years later. So that's kind of a snapshot.
I love it.
Quick of my background.
So for people that haven't heard of 4-Day Weekend, what exactly is it, and why did you, or how did you guys kind of come up with it? Because I think it's brilliant.
Well, thank you very much. Well, you know, it's funny. When we started improv, our show, it was in 1997. Now,
Wow.
I have to give your viewers here some historical context. You know, in 1997, stand-up was still kind of king, right?
Sure.
But so improv was sort of the redheaded stepchild of comedy. You know, it really wasn't out there very much. You know, the Whose Line Is It Anyway, the British version, wasn't as popularized here in the States. And certainly Drew Carey's, you know, Whose Line Is It Anyway, had not been on TV and got the ratings that it got.
Sure.
Nowadays, people are much more familiar with the art form, the craft, and the people who came out of improvisation. But back then, we had to educate people. So we had trained up at the conservatory at the Second City in Chicago. And for your viewers who may or may not know, you know, of course, the Second City is the mecca of improvisation. Now, there's other people out there that do a great job too, like Improv Olympic, Upright Citizens Brigade, the Groundlings, amongst others, Improv Asylum in Boston. But we got some training at the conservatory at the Second City. And when we came back from that, we realized that in Dallas, Fort Worth, the Metroplex here in Texas, there was nothing like that. And that's the kind of improvisation that we wanted to do. So we decided to start 4-Day Weekend. And we had to pick between Dallas and Fort Worth. We visited Fort Worth, the Sundance Square, the downtown square, on a Wednesday night, and it was alive. It was jumping. It was kicking. There were people down, and we thought, man, this city's got a great vibe. Why don't we start the show here? So we started the show there in 1997, 6 weeks. 6 weeks became 6 months. 6 months became 6 years. 6 years became 21 years and counting.
That's great, man. Congrats. That's amazing.
It was a great choice. Thank you very much. It was a great choice to pick Fort Worth. But now we have a second theater in Dallas. So we have one in Dallas and one in Fort Worth now. So, but that's kind of how it all started.
Sure. So what exactly do you guys kind of cover an improv on? Because I was watching some clips online, and it's quite impressive what you guys do.
Well, you know, again, for your viewers who may not know, our show is based on audience suggestions, right? So we did it a lot, our live shows rather. So we get people to come in and they'll throw out suggestions, and then we'll make up scenes and songs based on those suggestions, kind of like you see on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Sure.
So, that show with the general public became very popular, and that led to people asking about taking classes to learn how to do that. So we opened up a training center. Well, there were people who worked for companies that were coming to our shows, and they said, "Hey, do you guys do improv shows or private shows for companies?" And we said, "Sure, yeah, absolutely."
Why not,
so we
right?
Yeah, right now we're going to start today. So our corporate arm, and then all of that sort of opened the door to the keynotes that we give about the Yes and philosophy now, the motivational speaking events, the workshops, and of course the book that we wrote. All of that is based on the Yes and philosophy, which all of improv is based on. It all begins and ends with the Yes and philosophy. And a lot of people, really enjoyed our shows, but they also enjoyed the message. And so that really motivated us to start to, put it down on paper and put it into a book so that we could get it to people who may not otherwise be able to come to a show or be part of one of our workshops.
Sure. So what exactly is the Yes and philosophy, and why did you guys decide to kind of turn it into a book? You just kind of mentioned it, but I want to dive deeper into that.
No, it's a great question. Well, so to give you some context here, the reason we started in 1997. None of us were business majors, right?
Okay.
We started the show just like other comics start a show. You just want to do it because you love it. You're passionate about it. We had no aspirations of being business owners, making money at it. Just loved doing it. So somewhere along the way, once it went from the 6-week run to 6 months and 6 months, through a year, what have you, we had to hire people. We started to have a staff around us, but none of us were business majors. So we needed a business philosophy. We needed something that we could sort of build around, a foundation for our company's culture. And we thought about it. And then while we were talking, we said, hey, the thing we do on stage that works really, really, really well, the yes and, like, I agree to your idea and we build on the idea together, or I'm an active listener on stage, I'm present, I'm in the moment, that when I take the stage, it's my job to make Kevin look good and it's Kevin's job to make me look good. It's a very unselfish way to approach performance.
Sure.
And well, would all of those wonderful things that make improv so great work just as well off stage if we applied it to our business model? So we agreed that we would try. And sure enough, you know what? It did. The culture at 4-Day became a yes and culture. So all of a sudden, our employees felt, they could give us ideas, they could speak up, and not only that, they would be heard. So it permeated our culture. So we just said, well, let's just use this yes and thing with whatever it is that we're doing. And that's kind of how it snowballed. So the motivation for using it in the first place was we weren't business majors.
That's amazing.
I know, right? You're thinking, necessity is the mother of invention. So, but now we talk about how everybody should be a yes and person in their everyday life. And what occurred to us somewhere along the way, after all these years, is that yes, we are improvisers by trade, by profession, right?
Sure.
But, if you think about it, you're an improviser. Everybody's an improviser. The old saying, the world is but a stage and we are merely players. Well, the world is but a stage and we are merely all improvisers. We're trying to improvise our way every day through this whole thing called life. So if we're already, all of us, improvisers anyway, like you and I didn't script this conversation,
Totally, yeah.
Why not learn how to do it in a yes and positive way versus a negative no but reactionary way? And so that's kind of what it's all about.
Interesting. So what made you guys kind of turn it into a book? Well, I should say a best-selling book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that a couple of things. One was we were getting requests from our corporate clients. We do a lot of work with Fortune 500 companies, sure. CEOs, presidents, and those companies to talk about yes and within their culture. So people would say, hey, so-and-so couldn't be here or this group couldn't make it. Gosh, it would be great if you guys had something to bring with you or leave behind that people could refer to. So that was one of the motivations. But the big kick in the pants that sort of led to that, we would get some of those requests just based on the private shows that we were doing. But I'm going to take you back to 2008.
Okay.
And the financial collapse. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember the financial collapse? Okay, so at this point, one of our big revenue streams. Now this is 2008. We've been around a while. We've got a big staff of people. A lot of people are counting on us for their paycheck, right?
Sure.
And one of our big revenue streams was the corporate entertainment arm of 4-Day Weekends. So we were doing a lot of private shows and hosting award banquets and emceeing and doing man on the street videos and stuff for our corporate clients. So that was a big revenue stream. Well, we were at a gig on the road in Vegas, I believe, and it was for a banking software company, ironically.
Okay,
and
interesting.
The newspaper when we were there in 2008 said, Lehman Brothers collapses. Like, huh? So now, if you'll recall, it was terrible. A lot of corporations now could not justify spending money on corporate entertainment, right?
Sure.
That was seen, especially after the taxpayers bailed them all out. That was seen as frivolous expense, right? There were a couple of companies out there that, they photos were taken of them at parties with caviar and ice sculptures, and they're like, oh, we can't do that. The optics aren't good on that. So what happened consequently for us, that entire revenue stream dried up.
Sure.
So all that money that was coming in for that corporate entertainment was no longer there, but we still had a staff of people. We still had to pay the electric bill. We still had to pay the lease. We had all these bills. So we had to end a solution. So, this is where end really comes into play. So we realized, all right, how can we create another revenue stream? Well, from my days in corporate America with Texas Instruments, I had eventually I was promoted and ascended to a managerial role there at a young age. And one of the things when I was manager in charge of a group of people, we didn't always have money for things like corporate entertainment, but we always had money for continuing education.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. So this comes in the form, a corporation can say, well, we needed to send our employees to classes. We needed to buy books for them, right? We needed to have a motivational speaker come in. You have money for continuing education in a company, and that's not frivolous spending or expenditures. So we talked about it, and we said, well, then we need to come up with something that can go into the category of continuing education. And what we did was, that's when we came up with the keynote. Okay. And the workshop and the interactive and keynote and workshop. Well, that thing exploded, and it basically supplanted the corporate work, the corporate entertainment work we lost. It eventually came back, but for that time, it was crucial. The popularity of that keynote was crucial to keeping our business afloat. In addition to the ticket sales from the live shows, and the popularity of that, and it's still growing today, to the book, because people wanted something to refer to. So all of it was mapped back to 2008, the financial collapse. Our and solution was a keynote, and the keynote to the book. And now we take the book with us, and it's the leave behind when we do our keynote. So it all kind of is a very symbiotic, interrelated relationship there. That's how.
That's very cool. And you did that keynote. You've done that keynote for presidents, Congress, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we actually did. We were invited to give our and keynote to the United States Congress. We met Obama. We've worked with Colin Powell, George W. Bush, Rudy Giuliani. I mean, you name it. We've been all over the country, all over the world. We've been to Europe for the troops. We did a tour there for them. So yes, this thing has made the rounds with a lot of different people, for sure. But Congress was great. That was a really great experience.
That's really cool. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into the book for a second. So you cover the yes and philosophy, but it's kind of a bit more than that. Like, what else do you guys kind of cover in the book?
Well, certainly, yeah. Like I said, the yes and philosophy is the cornerstone. We have exercises that teaches you how to sort of reprogram your brain to be yes and versus no but.
Okay.
But other components that are equally important are things like being present, being in the moment, which you have to do in improv.
Sure.
Being an active listener, you have to be a really good listener in improv. When you see people doing stuff on the fly on stage, you have to listen to all the pertinent information so that you can process it and then build on it, right? So active listening is very important, and it also helps you make a better communicator. Of course, collaboration, teamwork, that's always very important, especially companies say, hey, our business model is changing, but we need to work together. So they want to talk about collaboration. Adaptability is huge. A lot of companies say, ooh, our culture is a little slow to move on things. We need to be more adaptable. That's another thing that's discussed in the book. And then one of the things I think that gets overlooked is things like we also talk about when it comes to our business, having a sense of play, at work or at home. That's very important to enjoying what you do and then being pleasant to be around.
Sure.
And then also the charitable aspect of it. The thing, like I said, that improv teaches you is how to be unselfish. You're working within a group, right? And at 4-day weekend, the worst thing in the world, our mantra is, it's my job to make you look good, to make Kevin look good, and it's your job, Kevin, to make me look good. And if we both take the stage that way, then we're all going to look good at the end of the day. So that's very important. It's a very unselfish worldview or perspective to have. So we talk about that in the book. And what that has led to are a lot of the charitable things that we do as a business, which we feel is important, not to make money.
Sure.
It's just important to be giving back to people of the community. So we donate shows to the military. We donate shows to, food banks, or, we started a Secret Boot Butterfly campaign, which is very kind of a pay it forward sort of movement. And so that's another important component of our business that we discuss in the book as well. So all of them.
No, I think that's really great. You guys are also entrepreneurs in resident at Texas Christian University. What exactly do you guys kind of do there, and how did that kind of come to be?
Well, that in the course of writing the book, we had, of course, college students from TCU, Texas Christian University, came to our show. And then over the years, we ended up doing work for the faculty and the staff. Well, as we were writing the book, it kind of we sort of approached the business school and the dean, and we started to talk about this yes and philosophy. And to TCU's credit, being a yes and university, they said, well, you could be entrepreneurs in residence here at TCU, and you could teach the yes and philosophy. So it was a golden opportunity for us to come in as this successful business, because, at this point we won Best Small Business of the Year. We got the key to the city from the mayor.
That's amazing. Congrats on all that, by the way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we were being called an institution in Fort Worth and the ambassadors of Fort Worth. So we had some respectability. So the university, and it's the Neely School of Business, by the way, which is one of the top business schools in the country, gave us this wonderful opportunity to speak to college students about yes and philosophy, because it's very, very important to get that out to the younger minds, because they're going to be that, college is their last stop. They're in this graduate program. This is it. And then you're out in the real world. So if we could help to teach some of them about the yes and philosophy, then they would carry that out into the workplace. And TCU was very gracious to allow us to do that. So that's what we do. We are there as entrepreneurs in residence, and we give keynotes and we give workshops to student and faculty, both, about the SN philosophy. It's been great, a great relationship. We love doing it.
No, that's awesome. I think you're right. Like, just kind of going into corporate America and teaching that stuff and the SN philosophy, but also teaching it to students going into corporate America, right? I think makes a lot of sense, right? Like
it does. Yeah, it does. And they love it, by the way. But it's very important, because if they're thinking about it out there, then they're going to apply it. Versus, when we have to go to a corporation, it's kind of learned behavior now, because they've
Right.
done something a certain way for so long. They just have to rethink it, but they also do very well with it. It helps their cultures as well.
No, I think that's really great. And we're kind of coming to the end of the show, but I still really want to cover one kind of last thing. You
Sure.
guys also have a training center for new people that want to potentially be a cast member in 4-Day Weekend. Do you want to maybe talk about that quick?
Yeah. So we have at the training center, we have 5 levels. So
Okay.
it starts beginners in level 1 all the way up through graduating with level 5.
So I don't need to have any experience to come to level 1,
No
correct?
experience.
Okay.
No, if you just want to learn about yes and or improv,
Okay.
it's anybody and everybody, all are welcome. And you can take classes either in our Dallas Theater or Fort Worth. And then, of course, you get to perform a showcase, which is a lot of fun. But it's a great way to learn about improv and meet new people and learn about the SN philosophy. So, yeah, we have a training center with 5 levels.
Okay, so just maybe quickly walk us through those kind of levels. Like, what do you kind of teach me or somebody that wants to come?
Well, when you get to level 1, you're learning the basics, okay? So there's a lot of exercises or games that just teach you about yes and or listening or how to work together as a group, right? So you're learning just the basic fundamentals. And then as you progress through the levels, you learn about scene work. You learn about character development. You learn about establishing the who, the what, the where, and the why of the scene. So those things start to round out your scene work as you progress and get more advanced. And you're doing more short form improv. But as you get to the higher levels, like levels 4 and like level 5, well, now you're doing multiple person scenes, 3-person scenes. You're doing longer form improvisation. And then after you get out or graduate from our program at level 5, you now get to join house teams and do shows at the theater, on a satellite stage.
Very cool.
To kind of get your chops. Because the truth is, even after you read all the books and you go through all the classes, there's no greater teacher than stage time. Nothing replaces stage time. It's the only way you're gonna earn your chops ultimately. So we provide a stage for the students then once they're graduated to perform in our theater on.
Sure, and then eventually some of them might become cast members. Fair enough to say?
Oh yeah, yeah. We've earmarked students. There a lot of the people who work on our staff, either in the cast, on stage, or off stage, have come out of the training center for sure.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
Frank, we're kind of at the end of the show, so maybe let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys and the book.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Well, your viewers can go to our website, which is 4dayweekend.com, and that's spelled out FOURDAY weekend.com. Or you can go to Amazon or Barnes Noble, and look at this, because it's Skype. Oh, look at this.
Look at that.
You can buy our national bestseller. So Happy Accidents, The Transformative Power of Yes and at Work and in Life. It's available anywhere where you buy books. So.
Perfect, Frank. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time in your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, likewise, Kevin. Thank you. You're so easy to talk to, a great interviewer. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks, man. Have a good weekend. Bye.
You too.